Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Sorting Hat Podcast, the show where everything and anything can and will be sorted. I, as always, am your host, Michael Barryte, joined by my co-host, Reed Brice.
Oh no, Michael!
What, Reed?
Rita Repulsa is attacking the city! We
Rita
need some teenagers with attitude to pilot some robots!
Shut up, Dad!
You're so...
Wait, what's going on?
Oh, that's just our guest, Abby Denton. You might know her as a writer and producer of the web series Cyber Cafe. She's also a stand-up comedian here in the Los Angeles area, and she's a giant robot appreciatrix.
Are we not talking about the Power Rangers today?
No,
Is that
we're
not what
not.
we're here for?
Well, I've got a lot of attitude.
That's all you need to be a part of the crew.
Which one? When y'all played Power Rangers as a kid, even though this had nothing to do with what we're going to talk about today, which one were you?
Well, as you can see, I was usually the Black Ranger.
Yeah.
Typecasting.
Abby, podcasts are not a visual medium, so that joke probably landed very well just now.
Yes.
I'm very pleased with how well the audience is laughing right now.
But in any and
I
all
always was
cases,
the Yellow Ranger.
I don't care.
What?
The basic conceit of the show, it's a thing that we need to establish to early first-time listeners, Freed, is that we take a subject that our guest is oh so knowledgeable or a huge fan or a mega nerd about, and then we sort components of that thing into the various houses of Hogwarts. Abby Denton is our guest today. Welcome, Abby.
Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, fantastic comedian and all-around giant dork about town. And today, Abby's here to talk about Gundams with us.
Yes, which Reed and I know so much about.
I watched some of it when it was on, was it on Toonami? Is that where it aired?
I believe so, yeah.
When I would have been in like middle schoolish, I guess. How did you get into it?
Well, we never had cable growing up, so I actually was unaware there was any sort of a cartoon attached. But I found one of those little model kits in like the clearance aisle once.
Oh, so you came about it through the toys.
Through the toys, which
then you just cut out
tremendous.
all the middlemen for them.
Oh boy, yeah. It was a lot of fun. Although now that you've brought up the Power Rangers, I'd rather just talk about Akiba Ranger for the rest of the day.
That's another episode, though.
It's a really good show. Watch it.
So you, how old were you?
Oh gosh, I must have been about 12, but then I didn't really do any more until I was like 20, 21. And then one of the stores in town started stocking them up. One of the comic stores, the Phantom of the Attic Comics in Oakland, Pittsburgh.
Okay. Check it out if you're in the Pittsburgh area.
Mm-hmm.
They're lovely. Tell Wayne I said hi. Tell Jeff I said hi. He actually runs the place.
No. So Jeff has a slightly higher pay grade than Wayne.
Probably, but Wayne he's always doing lectures.
I'm not getting into the
he's a
politics
teacher.
of that store again here. Not on this podcast, not this time.
Understood.
Abby, what Hogwarts house are you in?
Oh, well, that's a good question. Which is the one that is evil and hates everyone because they're too cool for Harry Potter?
Slytherin.
Because that's me.
I think that is just a detached, ironic nerd.
Yeah, I think I'm better than everyone.
I think people who think they're too good for Harry Potter suck, and I think people who are way, 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 way too into to the point that they are like they're shitty to you if you haven't read it also suck.
Yes.
Both of those people just need to pipe down and chill out.
But as far as sorting bias goes, that is.
But
then
you're a Hufflepuff. I was just joking.
I wish I'd looked up in advance what are like the houses in all of the different country ones that they introduced a few years ago.
The new regions.
And then just to be like teacher's pet.
But no, okay, so you are a Hufflepuff or you're a Slytherin?
I would say in reality, if you wanted to be honest, I'd probably end up being a Hufflepuff because I'm a coward. I'm a quitter. I've never amounted to anything.
Right.
Well, I don't think that's entirely true because a quitter wouldn't give up on any of their Gundam models, which you have built many, correct?
Right.
I have a backlog that I have all but given up on because now my girlfriend moved in with me. My whole Gundam table has now been taken over with her graphic fine art
It
work.
is worth noting that Abby's face really scrunched up in disgust over that.
That's what you get for dating somebody with taste.
It was my biggest mistake of my life.
Just date dummies.
No. I want to be clear. I love her.
Uh-huh.
She's better than everyone else in this room. And me.
That's a fair assessment. So to dive in, I guess we need like a core understanding of what a Gundam
Yeah, give us the elevator pitch of what that is.
And then we'll dive into a few specific models and then sort them accordingly.
Okay. So the Gundam franchise was started in 1978-79 by a writer named Yoshiyuki Tomino, who'd sort of worked on a couple of super robot cartoons, which going back to like the 50s, smarter people than me would probably say something to do with the atom bomb, because everything you end up associating with the atom bomb,
sure,
if it comes
it was
from
a very
Japan,
big catalyst in their
that's
culture,
just what all cultural studies people will talk about. No, that's probably true. I shouldn't make fun of them for it. Super robots are sort of like a little kid has this invincible super robot that fights the bad guys every week. It's the same structure as Power Rangers and every other show like that. But then in 79, Tomino had this show, Gundam, Mobile Suit Gundam, which sort of took a much more militaristic approach where the robots would be destroyed, and it was a much more, it treated things more like a war of attrition, where people would all actually have to deal with the fallout of engaging in combat. And
so it was just a much more real, hard edge look on war in general.
Yeah.
It wasn't glamorizing it.
It's a lot
take
like
away the romanticism of those things.
There's still a lot of it. Like the main kid has like magic psychic powers that make him the best at piloting a robot, but it and Metal Gear Solid are both sort of summed up by a meme of it's a picture of a giant robot shooting a gun, but the bullets are flying over a guy's head. And the bullet is labeled like, oh, the futility of war, the horror of life. And the little kid's eyes are bulging out, and he just says, "Wow, cool robot." And that's basically the whole series, is just people saying you're wrong to enjoy these toys that are available at your local convenience store. 7-Eleven does 7-Eleven branded Gundams in Japan, which are all really great looking. Like one of them just holds a 7-Eleven sign instead of a spear. And
honestly,
they're all like orange and
I
green.
love 7-Eleven because they just fucking go for it. Did you know that some U.S. locations have 7-Eleven carries its own makeup line?
What?
They have their own brand of makeup. I'm not joking. One of them is just like a Cheeto orange lipstick.
I was hoping that they were food inspired. This
no, but
delights
otherwise
me.
it looks just like your very basic budget brand.
Well,
like,
now I'm
not as good as
disappointed.
Yeah, well, don't buy your makeup at 7-Eleven.
That was a real rise and
Slurpy
fall.
blue lips,
Yeah.
Slurpy red
Right.
blush.
So
Yeah.
wait,
You see what I'm talking about.
In this context, then would this giant robot have to fight on behalf of the 7-Eleven company in case of a national emergency?
You know, the sad thing is, just based on the future, like that's much more likely to be the kind of giant robots we'll have than any sort of government that exists producing a military.
Hell yeah, I want the Slurpee robot to protect me.
So this show birthed a whole new sort of sub-series of mech-based combat shows, and then somewhere in there, obviously, models became a component, and not the other way around. Like, because as I know, correct me if I'm wrong, but Mattel was all big on, hey, we have Transformers, now let's build a show around that.
And, Transformers, you don't want to talk about that. I was on a Transformers podcast for a while, and just the way that there were transforming robot toys that Mattel or Hasbro, one of those guys, turned into a cartoon, but then they started making more toys for the cartoon, so then like none of the continuities make sense because then Japan had different toys than America. It's very
so the
confusing.
snake's eating its own tail at that point. But
Solid Snake?
Gundam is not that. No, Liquid Snake.
For the models, just like a quick reference to let people know, like maybe if you've never delved into this, like how big this is in Japan. The Gunpla, as you told us before, makes up 90% of Japanese character plastic model market. 90% of it.
90?
And it is an 18.4 billion yen industry. It is the fifth, and Gundam is the 15th highest grossing media franchise of all time.
It's nuts. In Odaiba, the artificial island in the Tokyo Bay that where much of the first series of Digimon also took place, Bandai has built a gigantic Gundam statue, like a life-size Gundam statue.
Whoa.
And they tore it down a couple years ago and replaced it with like the new series Gundam that actually transforms, allegedly. I haven't seen a lot of videos
But
of
it's
that
also
one.
still to scale?
Yes. And a story just broke yesterday about something to do with money laundering involving that statue, and I'm very excited to learn more about that story.
Oh, man.
I highly recommend you
The
look
Gundam
up the
that's
Odaiba.
part of the mafia.
It's great.
So shall we start diving into actual models themselves, or should we address, as you told me before, about grade scales, just like real fast?
If that's something we'll need to know as we sort these guys.
Do we need to know grade scales for the models that we're sorting?
What's a grade scale?
Okay. Well, with all of these toys, every giant robot cartoon at this point basically has different model kits. But Bandai and Gundam specifically put so many of their eggs into the basket that they have all sorts of specific grades and scales for the robots. Whereas something like Xenoblade made one model for one of their robots. And that's sort of all us fans of that game ever got.
So you're saying this is because I'm saying literally explain like I'm 5. What is grade and what is scale?
But Gundam specifically, okay. Oh yeah, sorry. So Bandai is like they put all their eggs into like Gundam modeling.
Like you get an A on this one
to the point that in their factories, like everyone is dressed like the mechanics from the Gundam cartoon. Yeah, like that's how overboard it goes. And sort of for different age groups and different just based on what they want to sell, or if they want to push DVDs.
So it's a complexity scale.
It's a complexity and size.
And by or grade, do you mean like age?
Kind of. It kind of maps out into that. Okay. Because they've got the 144 scale. Yeah. Which is everything is 1/144th of the size of how much it would be in real life if cartoons were.
This is
real
now
life.
Clicking for me because we were discussing this before the podcast and I wasn't putting together. It's 1:48. It's 1:144.
I'm so sorry.
It is okay, but yeah, so just to
this is where Victor Borghi was right about the need for verbal punctuation.
Yeah, so the various grade scales that we do have, and so now I'm understanding a grade scale doesn't necessarily apply to a specific robot type, but you could have differing grade scales of the same robot model.
Yes.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
I see. So in some regards, we actually didn't need to be discussing grade scale. I'm just realizing that now. But the differing grade scales are 1:48 megagrade, 1:60 perfect grade, 1:100 master grade, 1:100 no grade, 1:144 hard grade, and 1:144 advanced grade.
The advanced grade, they change the name for it all the time because they also call it first grade. That's sort of the smallest, unless you want to get into like vending machine toys. They'll usually do that while a show is still ongoing, and they'll put out the first grade, which is like 5 pieces.
Gotcha.
That any 5-year-old could do, and it's sort of before they've figured out how to mold a really good toy based on a design.
So then I'm assuming based on I went in descending order of both complexity and scale.
Yes.
Great.
Okay. Cool. So now we kind of understand like like in a spatial way what we're dealing with. Yeah, cool. So that's helpful for the listener, I think, and for my dumb brain. I think we should just go into the models themselves. I think that's where all the juice is gonna be.
Okay.
Because there's more character to some of these as I've like started like kind of just like looking glancing at the Wikipedia.
Are you cheating, Reed?
I am a famous cheater. I don't think there's a board game we've ever played where you all haven't noticed that I either stopped paying attention to what the rules were or just tried to get away with something and quickly get put into timeout or something.
I'm very disappointed in you.
So let's start with in the order which you told them to me before we started recording, which was Zaku.
Oh, you always got to start with Zaku because that's the best Gundam design.
All right. What makes Zaku the best Gundam design?
Well, technically, they're not a Gundam design at all. They were designed by the Federation of Zeon, the hated enemies of the Earth Federation, my friend.
Sure.
So
the creators of the Gundam.
The bad guys?
They're the bad guys. They're actually, Zaku is sort of like the term for like the popcorn mooks that, like in a shooting game or whatever, you just mow down zillions of them.
Isn't their name is supposed to sound like an onomatopoeia of like a soldier just like marching, like a big old dude just going Zaku, 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 Zaku.
Yeah, it's like for the first episode of the show, they're kind of scary. Okay. And then the Gundam shows up and it like outstrips them so strongly that they're immediately irrelevant and like they just exist to get blown up.
So wait, Zaku is stolen enemy tech?
Zaku is just enemy tech.
Oh.
And okay, so in the first Gundam series, the evil Zeon, they're like from space, and they've been like disenfranchised by all the Earth people, and they decide to invade Earth because they want gravity so that their poops work right. And so they build these giant robots because in space you don't have to worry as much about gravity, so their research sort of outstrips the Federation, and so they like immediately dominate this war. And then the series starts with this kid Amuro Ray, whose dad has designed this Gundam, which is like the first Earth Federation giant robot to combat these other giant robots. So the Zakus start off like being the game changer, and then they're immediately outclassed.
Ah, man.
But they're so cute because Zeon's whole thing, design-wise, is they always have just one glowing eye in the middle of their face, which can be made to be really creepy if like you're just being watched by it, or it can just kind of look cute and helpless and goofy, which is how they look in most of the series. It's a good boyfriend robot. It's a workman-like. It's just sort of forest green usually, and he just looks like a goofball with a hard hat.
Now, as far as his how this one is built, like what are the different parts of a Zaku?
They've got sort of like pipes going along their sides, which not a lot of other mobile suits have. I think they end up justifying it because the franchise has gone on for so long that they go into all this detail about all this stuff that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
So they've got all these pipes to hold fuel or whatever, which are fun and sort of make it a lot more wiry and also make it a lot harder to build because they always use like springs and stuff for.
Oh, gotcha.
And now, correct me if I'm wrong. In the case of at least this robot, this has a more humanoid design.
Well, there's a distinction in the franchise between mobile suits, which are all pretty much humanoid, and then there's mobile armors, which will sometimes look like giant flower monsters and stuff like that.
Yeah.
They rarely build models of the flower monsters, which I think is a shame, but it's kind of understandable because it's a lot easier to look at a human-shaped thing and say, oh, that's my boyfriend, which I do for all of them.
I see. And this is all about how much you can associate them with being your boyfriend.
in most cases, yes.
Gotcha.
I think there are some men who are also into the franchise who might not be interested in having a boyfriend, but I don't think there are a lot of them.
Anyway.
Yeah, it's like there's like 5. It's one of those minorities that like come into
there's like 5 of them.
They come into a fandom
okay,
and they're like, yeah, it's ours now. But it's all about boyfriends.
Is there anything else we would need to know about the Zaku in terms of its position in the universe, or because you said it's kind of outclassed, outdated quickly? Just anything else maybe to its legacy in the franchise? Master
Chief and Halo is like visually based a lot on them. I don't know if it's on purpose, but they look very similar.
You feel like it was definitely like a derivative thing?
Well, every Gundam series pretty much has like an updated design for the Zaku because it's such a well-selling toy because everyone loves them. And one of the more recent ones in Gundam Reconquista in G it's just Master Chief. But it's their version of the Zaku. Also, the Zakus come in different colors for different divisions. There's like a purple and black one for this group called the Black Tri-Stars, and that's a really cool. I think that's my favorite custom thing. And then there's 2 like ace pilots, Johnny Ridden and Char Aznable, who both paint their Zakus red.
Okay,
and that's sort of the most. Here is a meme to tell you, which is in the cartoon, Char Aznable, who's like the ace rival. He's the bad guy. Always wears a mask, and he paints his Zakus and all of his robots. He paints them bright red, and he claims that he's tuned it up so that it's 3 times stronger, or 3 times faster than any of the other Zakus that the good guys have faced before. And that was such a meme to the point that like now if something in Japan, especially being sold by Bandai, is red, they'll just sell it as like the Char model, and they'll say, "Oh, it writes 3 times better than the average pen." It's so my funny. Favorite stupid meme that took off.
Yeah, this is a Hufflepuff, right?
I would say yes. It's helpless. It needs its friends to get anything done. It's cute.
Hufflepuffs aren't helpless, but they are. If we're thinking about the most likely to be overlooked. In terms of
absolutely,
in terms of what they bring to the table and contribute, it's always Hufflepuffs who get the short end of the stick in my opinion.
Also, as far as you describing them as the boyfriend robot,
Hufflepuffs are definitely the boyfriend of. They're the ones that you want to bring home to your family.
Aww.
Yeah.
So, what is next? I believe, looking at the list, it is the RX-78.
Well, I felt like we should probably acknowledge he's the grandfather of the Gundam. He's such a popular model that every time they do a new grade scale or a new sort of line. Like they started rebuilding old models of HG hard grade, which is sort of like the main one that all the kits come in. And they recently did, I forget what it was called. It was like an initiative to redesign a bunch of those in much greater detail than they'd been doing before, because they figured out new ways to do molds, and I was so excited. And so like every couple of years you'll find a new, even more detailed, even prettier looking Gundam.
RX-78 is, when I hear Gundam, specifically what I envision.
Yeah, me too.
He's a great boy, and he's got this fin on his head, the V fin that is sort of the central design element of all the Gundams.
Yeah, it kind of looks like bug antennas.
Yeah.
I mean it's a largely white robot body with some colored yellow pelvic plating of sorts, and then his
Are those like swords behind him?
torso
He's
is
got beam
blue
swords,
and red, and sometimes he has a shield, I guess,
with the cross of the Federation on it.
Oh, I see. Yeah. So this just, I mean, visually reads a lot more sturdy than Zaku.
Yes. He I think up until the end of the original cartoon, he's still in use because he's so advanced, so great.
What makes RX-78 advanced more so than Zaku? Like, I'm assuming there are some technology components or something like that.
I think it comes down to the power of friendship. Something metal, something Minovsky particles.
Sorry,
blah engine output.
Sorry, what? Minovsky particles?
Oh, well, Minovsky particles in the future. See, the reason that every robot needs to be built like a human and able to engage in hand-to-hand combat is because in the future they have Minovsky particles, which you put out into space, and they block all radar, and you can't shoot missiles anymore.
And where did
where
those come from?
I have no idea.
Oh, okay, so it's never explained.
I just like the toys. It's almost definitely explained in great detail.
Oh, okay, so you are to Gundam what I am to Harry Potter, in that we are talking with authority but don't necessarily know the plot very well.
Well, except Abby has built countless models, and I can't say that you've seen all of the movies.
I can say that I have seen some of them.
Have you ever built a statue of Harry Potter?
Not a statue.
Have you ever done a drawing?
I've not done a drawing. Okay, so maybe it's not at all like that, and you know a lot more about Gundam than I know about Harry Potter. No. But I do host a podcast, and that's my general point all the time.
So
the Gundam is such a popular design to the point that every other series, like, they will have the V-fin like hero model
as an homage to.
It's almost definitely just because like the toys sell like hundreds of times more than any of the other models. Like Zaku's, even the Zaku's, which are probably the most popular non-Gundam guys, like never sell as well as like the main Gundam of a series. The best of the like Gundam from a different show was from Turn A Gundam, or rather Upside Down A, also called Turn A Gundam, I think is the full title, which
It's
had mecha
called
designs
Upside
by
Down A?
Well, the title is Turn A, like that's how you pronounce that symbol in math.
Oh,
But then in the logo, it's that symbol and then written under it called Turn A Gundam.
fun.
Which makes me very happy. But the mech designs in that were all designed by Sid Mead, and he adapted the white or sometimes yellow V-fin that all the Gundams have into a big white mustache, sort of like Whitebeard from One Piece. And it's just a robot with a giant mustache, and it's my favorite guy.
I think this guy's written as a Gryffindor to me, especially if you're like the figurehead of a series.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Very cut and dry.
Also, and now I don't have the exact model like right next to me. I can, he said, typing up.
Yeah, even just like the big old shield and sword thing, very King Arthur-y, sort of.
Yeah, I guess he is kind of that kind of guy, yeah. Yeah,
so I just brought up a comparative image of Optimus Prime, and their model similarity is uncanny.
They've both got like a car grill in the front, and they're all about the primary colors.
So and if I'm not mistaken, Transformers showed up after Gundam, so
it did.
Again, this is sort of a company aping a style and going like, hey, we can probably, I mean, I'm sure there was some production cost angle to all of that where they could easily produce that and be like, and you don't have to pay as much for these Japanese import models because it's here and it's cheaper.
Yeah.
Buy Transformers.
Yeah.
Also, yeah, and maybe Transformers was an easier sell to the American market because, like, with Transformers, it's just a toy that comes assembled. Whereas, like, model making is not necessarily as prevalent, as far as I know, a hobby as it would be in Japan if it's such a big industry.
Yeah, it's weird you say that because the Gundam build competitions in Japan are like huge. Like I'm friends with some sort of people in that sphere on Twitter. Oh boy,
that's what I'm saying. If there are competitions that are famous, it must be a bigger.
I mean, I don't know about famous. I'm sure like
sure.
I'm sure in Japan your Commoner Garden guy is like, oh, look at those friggin' nerds.
Yeah.
But within the community of nerds, like it's huge in Japan. Like people will drive across the country. Whereas I covered the Fullerton Gundam Expo down in Orange County for Sci-Fi Wire a year and a bit ago. And that's like America's biggest Gundam competition. And they sort of fit in a small, like, not convenience store gymnasium. What am I thinking of? A community center gymnasium.
Yeah, and Fullerton is not like necessarily a metropolis. So,
but it is a very nice town. There are two comic stores within like a couple blocks of the train station. It's my favorite place to go.
One make it a competition though, is where I'm.
Well, with all these different grades of model kits we were talking about before, which are sort of varying levels of complexity.
Sure.
People like to paint and customize them partly because in the original cartoon, one of the reasons Char Aznable is such a big deal is he like repainted his Zaku and was like, oh, this is my Zaku. And that sort of inspired people to buy the models and then sort of refinish them. Because also in the 70s and 80s, like these models were garbage. Like I have done a couple and sort of refinished them, and they'll like some of them wouldn't come colored at all. Some of them
it's really cheaply made.
Yeah, just like two colors for a design that's meant to have like 5 colors or whatever.
Which brings us to a great subsection of sorting called let's sort the different methods of building things. We've got different components that we talked about.
Oh boy, there's so much you can do. I mean, the most important thing to do is to sand down all the nubs when you're assembling these, because you cut them off of plastic runners.
Oh,
so then there will be little sort of nibs and nails and things sticking out of all of your pieces.
You said this that we're sorting these things?
Yeah, sure.
We'll do it rapid fire.
Yeah.
So that is all about getting down to a more precise placement. So we're going to go Ravenclaw, in my opinion.
Ravenclaw? It could be Slytherin, maybe. But...
I was going to say Gryffindor because sanding and forcing things to be shaped the way you want is extremely fascist.
Well, that would be Slytherin then. That would be Slytherin.
Yeah, Slytherin are the fascists.
I disagree. Gryffindors all go into a carceral state. They all become cops.
No, the Slytherins are the cops. They're literally the ones who have round up people into camps.
Harry Potter joined the Ministry of they're the same thing. InfoWars people.
Oh no, for sure. No, and you don't have to worry about. I am very much not neoliberal in this podcast. But we're not going to go full communist today. So yeah, we can. We don't have to necessarily land anywhere. What's the next part of building a model?
Well, then
you sanded it down.
Yes. Well, then you start to paint it, and there's sort of 3 ways you can paint it. The most difficult way is to hand paint it, which is almost impossible to do. Like I will hand paint like fine details and things, especially because I like to do garbage like 80s, 90s kits and sort of add the details myself, because then I can customize it. My Vig Nagina is, that's one we have to talk about. It's not on the list, but that's the best robot design. Okay, so its name is the Vig Nagina.
We'll get back to it. So
we'll get back to it. Okay, so hand painting is that's something that only gods can do well.
Right.
I've tried doing more than
because
fine
it's
details.
So small, right?
Oh, it's not even just small. Like it's airbrushing is so much better for getting an even color.
Do you need to use one of those jeweler's loupes to look at the fine detail, or is it not that hard?
I've never had to. I could see that happening, especially for people who want to get decals and stickers on just right.
Hand brushing strikes me as a Ravenclaw thing.
I could see that.
Yeah, if you're very much like, I need to be able to get in as close and still have crisp, clarity of what the character is, instead of, it being more of a Monet impressionist sort of thing that mine would definitely turn into.
And so you're talking about airbrushing. You'd mentioned that there are 2 types of airbrushing.
Yes. Well, okay. So hand brushing is sometimes used for, weathering and stuff, like you'll dry brush mud and stuff, which I don't do so much because I love the clean, this is how it looks in the hanger. This is the ultimate robot. And that's where you want to use an airbrush because you can get very clean colors and sort of very flat. You can thin the paint a lot easier so that it doesn't clump and it just looks nicer. Usually, and there's two kinds of airbrushes. There's a bottle fed or I guess sort of suction feed airbrushes where you attach a bottle to the bottom of the airbrush and just the air coming through pulls it through the bottle. That is something that is for strong, brave, powerful people. I would say that's a Ravenclaw sort of way to make it. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to say it's Slytherin.
Oh, all right. I was thinking Gryffindor, but you know.
What are your reasons?
Oh, well, actually, you know what? Yeah, I'm seeing Slytherin on your end.
First of all, it's all about very much high-end aesthetic, and that is very much if any of the houses worry about how things look, it is Slytherins. Number two, I would think about like hand painting is going to be less prohibitively expensive than getting airbrushing kits.
This is true.
So that's a sort of like an elitist.
That was the thing that I was realizing. I was like,
Yeah.
the tool component probably.
Yeah, like that. Like there are some hurdles you need to get to it.
Oh, yeah.
I would say that's why I would say it would be a Slytherin.
Although I will say, like, airbrushing, if you discount the economic factor, and you just are looking at airbrushing allows for a clean, smooth, even coat. There's a part of me that is like, that's kind of Hufflepuff in that it's just even across the board.
But I would say if not for the faint of heart, then I would definitely say that it's not going to necessarily be a Hufflepuff.
Right.
Any other things to that? Or
the other one is the gravity feed airbrush.
Oh,
right.
What does that do?
Now that I'm thinking about it, is probably about as easy to clean as the other one. They're sort of the bottle is sort of attached to the airbrush and it's above it instead of below it and sucked up.
Oh, okay. How does that change up?
In retrospect, it doesn't change it nearly as much.
Okay.
But the first one I had was one of those guys. And do you know that fable about the kid who like has the magic dancing shoes?
Yeah,
and then like, my shoes are broken. And then they're like, oh, the magic was in you all along. Because the first airbrush I ever had was broken. It turned out I'd broken the nozzle like when I got it. I for the first year that I airbrushed stuff, like I was just dealing with this horrible, broken, janky piece of garbage.
So you didn't know that you were you were working at a very big disadvantage.
Yes. And
so
I thought there was something wrong with me.
When
and then
you finally started using a proper one, what it was like?
It was like ascending to a higher plane of existence.
What was I going to say?
So I always associate the kind that I had broken with being just a garbage airbrush. But now that I'm thinking about it, it's not the airbrush's fault. only an incompetent artist blames his tools.
And now you also mentioned that within the whole competition component, there is the building diorama option.
There's building dioramas, which is sort of a whole different aspect of it because Bandai doesn't really make materials for that. You just got to go out and get like architecture supplies and stuff, which is a whole lot of fun. I am terrible at dioramas as it happens.
But that's a situation where you are constructing it. Probably a whole war scenario. You're posing your models. You're setting
much
it up.
like the dioramas of second grade. You're creating the mise en scene for the model to inhabit.
The reason I got into Gunpla was there was this picture of.
That moment. I'm so sorry. I sounded like a substitute drama teacher trying to like figure out how to talk about something they desperately don't want to.
You just happen to grasp enough of the core words and string them together in a sentence.
Look, Reed, I don't mind that you're gay. I can't speak for Mike.
What? Why am I? You're a guest in
I just don't want to speak for you.
Throwing me under the bus.
Abby's my favorite troll because she's so sweet that by the time you like fully comprehend like how weird the thing she said was, like.
You know, you initially suggested that you might be a Slytherin. I feel like that could be true. You lured me into a false sense of security, and then you struck with venom.
I want to tell you quickly how we met.
You might be.
The circumstances. We were introduced at a birthday party because I think they were like, oh, these two will keep each other distracted. And
they were right.
I walked up to her and was like, hi, I'm Reed. And then she immediately started calling me David Faustino, the character who played Bud Bundy on Married with Children.
Wow.
They look very similar.
I have more than a passing resemblance to David Faustino. Please look him up if you haven't seen the show.
I I actually first met Reed while Reed was working at the Virgin Hotline, just like Bud Bundy.
Please don't talk about my personal life on the air.
Look, I'm proud of you. It's good. It's good volunteer work.
We're gonna do the vagina one and then the other one. What was it?
The big Nagina.
I'm so sorry. Nagina.
Well,
Okay.
I believe in the dubs, at least, they usually pronounce it the Vignagina. I have not actually seen the original audio for the film Gundam F91. Vignagina, Vigna -Ghina. And you might think that I'm being immature by saying that it sounds a lot like the word big vagina. That's 2 words, first of all. Second of all, this is a man, Shar Aznable, who I was talking about earlier, later in the series, uses the assumed name while he's undercover on Earth, Quattro Vagina. That's just it. There's no going around it. One of the dubs tries to call it Bergina, but it's vagina. Quattro Vagina. Okay, so Tomino is an interesting person. Like in the novelization of the original Gundam series, just before the end, Amuro Ray gets a locket with his girlfriend's pubic hair in it. And that's like a tradition in the future to like bring your
pubic hair becomes like important to people's relationships.
It'll bring your partner home to you safe, and it does. He comes home safe.
You straight up pluck your pubes and put them in lockets for people in the future.
He's literally like a higher evolved species of human than us, so I don't think we have the place to judge. That's only in the novelization, by the way. It doesn't come up in the children's cartoon at all.
Either way, though, that just seems very intense. I don't know how I would react to getting like if someone was like, I'm in love with you, and handed you a locket and you opened it up and there were disgusting pubic hairs in it. My first reaction would not be like, he loves me. It'd be like, oh my God, this person's going to end up wearing my skin.
Well, they were all going out to war tomorrow. They could have all died. I don't think he had the time to worry about it.
And it's a different culture than mine, so who am I to say?
These are spacemen.
Sure.
Pubic hair is probably harder to grow in space because of all the weird gravity.
Or any cultures here on Earth that might be similar.
Yeah.
Who might judge?
Tell us a little bit more about this robot.
Okay, so anyway, my point is Tomino gives his things very weird names. And the Vignagina has recently sort of enjoyed a renaissance because it was a very good character in one of the Gundam video games.
What does it look like?
It looks kind of like a peacock. It's sort of like a white, gray, and purple color scheme, and it's got these jets on its back that sort of look like peacock feathers.
Oh.
And she's got a really cool helmet, and it's one of the few robots in the series that's piloted by a lady, which is a nice change.
Finally.
And for the longest time, the only model of
Why
the
did you
Vignagina...
direct your eyes straight at me as if I'm somehow imposing?
No more holding back the Gundam world.
We can't speak for you, Mike. We don't want to assume
what
anything.
is going on in this room?
It's 2019. March the men into the ocean.
To live there again.
In my head, the visual is every woman has a spear and it's just
and
walking.
We're just like prodding along.
Oh yeah. And it's just like everyone's like, I guess
I'm leading the parade. I'm like, do it. This is best for all of us long term. I'll go.
And just very slowly walking out into the ocean, and then like, can I? And it's like, no.
Just prancing to my death.
And then in the buoyancy of water, the men are able to design the first mobile suits that exist in sort of lower...
So I'm not going to be able to escape nerdy shit even in death. Great.
You're doomed.
Nah, the afterlife is full of
So
weird shit.
this is a peacock.
It's sort of peacocky.
What kind
I
of
like her a
weapons
lot.
are they packing?
Some sort of a laser gun thing,
yeah.
I think. This was because the only model of this that existed for the longest time was this garbage kit from 1991.
Oh yeah,
that you could get for like $5 if they had it in stock.
Why was that?
Because Bandai will like rerun models like every couple of years, even the garbage ones from the 80s. And that was sort of when I fell in love with refinishing really old kits. Because that was the only way I could get my favorite guy. They just recently did like a really high quality model,
cool.
which was great. But this one, the old one, because it's old and it's only like 5 pieces, there was like this huge empty chest cavity that I got to wire up all these watch batteries and stuff. So now she lights up.
Whoa.
And I put a switch in the back, and that's my favorite Gundam model kit of them all.
And is there anything else we'd need to know about its place in the universe?
It's tragically underutilized, so you don't even need to know that much. She was
which
in.
sucks knowing like that's the only Gundam that's been piloted by a woman.
There's a couple more. There's a couple more. But
okay, but do you think that's connected, or is it just circumstantial that it's just not one that people like as much?
She was from the movie Gundam F91, which was originally meant to be another like full 52 episode cartoon, but then they ran out of budget, and the guy said, "Okay, we'll squash it all into an hour and a half."
So is this like just
it
a
doesn't
more
work in an hour and a half? It's probably one of the smaller ones. Although it then spun off into the manga Crossbone Gundam, which is about space pirates, and it's like the best Gundam media thing.
You love yourself a pirate show.
Pirates are good.
Abby was talking my ear off about this cool sounding comic book called One Piece before we were. Yeah,
it's a good comic.
Unfamiliar with it, but check it out.
Apparently you can read all of Shonen Jump. Is that what it's called?
Well, pretty much all of Shonen Jump. They don't have
online.
Hunter.
You can read all of it for $2 a month now. So
great.
yeah, she was trying to get me to care about Dragon Ball Z on the train.
Let's see. It's what? It's about 18 pages per issue, and it's been running for 950 chapters. So that's
a good deal.
There is now like 18,000 pages of One Piece for you.
But how are we sorting this robot peacock?
Oh, I shouldn't be doing our sponsorship for Shonen
It's the
Jump
best
right now.
robot, so that's Gryffindor.
What?
It's the best robot, so that's
Your manager's
Gryffindor.
gonna kill me.
I don't inherently disagree, but I do. Yeah, I'll go with Gryffindor. I'm not gonna fight you on it.
I would say it's like one that's awesome, but slightly underutilized. The way that Mr. Harry Potter was.
It starts off as the flagship of the
Sometimes
bad guys.
not,
It defects to the
given his
good guys.
due.
Maybe that's
he didn't get
by
his
those jerks
title.
upstairs in management.
Yeah. So let's shift to we have two to close us out. We have the GN Archer and the GN Artemy. Which do you want to tackle first?
Well, the GN Archer, I guess, is it's an underappreciated robot because they did the Nobel Gundam, which looks kind of like a Sailor Moon thing, and that sort of became like, oh, that's a girl robot. But there are so many others that people just ignore in favor of the Sailor Moon Gundam, including the GN Archer, which is a great design. It sort of kind of turns into a plane, but not really. And she's just got a great shape, and I love her.
The GN
so there's
Archer,
some that are transformable, and then some of them that don't.
The Gundam transformations aren't really central to any of them because a lot of them you'll have to like take apart and put back together in a different shape.
You kind of a thought of what the GN Archer looks like is envision a white, largely white body, a red chest plate, and then like scrunched up either like pterodactyl or bat wings that are red and black.
This one's going for speed, right? That's what it's mean? Okay.
That's all she's got going for her.
She's all alone.
Because like I was just like briefly looking it over, and apparently one of the design flaws of this one is like when it's in the fighting mode, it can't use some of its guns, right?
They didn't want it to be that strong.
Why would you design it? Oh, what?
Well, okay, so
let's make our weapons strong. We're not too powerful, we don't want.
This series had like 8 like Gundams, and this was just one of their friends' robots. So they didn't want it to overshadow the main character robots.
It needed to be able to do one thing well, so it could be saved, but also save others in very particular instances narratively.
Yes, it can combine with one of the Gundams, though. And I don't think anyone owns the other Gundam because it's sort of one of the more boring Gundams from that series. But in theory, she can combine with a robot that no one owns.
Oh, so she can Megazord.
Into like a bigger plane. Like they can't turn into a bigger robot, just a bigger plane.
I see.
You know what I love on these ones that are like given more feminine characteristics? Still got those boss ass 80s power shoulders like you saw on Diane Keaton and Baby Boom. That's a great reference for people in this day and age, right? People Gen Z people love Baby Boom, the film?
Oh, I mean, I hear them talking about it all the time on social media.
Listen, if you're looking to see Diane Keaton get hit in the face with spaghetti, that's your film.
I mean, that's like the quote on the VHS.
Dude just now was listening to it and like took out his list entitled "What I'm Into" and went, "Now it's this."
I never knew, but
right next to "Butts in shorts?" ?
Does the sauce get caked between her toes?
All right, moving on.
So, how are we ranking this Archer? Where's it going?
Dude, she's cool. She kind of looks like Yeah, she looks like someone that I would definitely like. You, please save me. So I would go for Gryffindor.
Oh, really?
Aw.
Yeah, and like fast, which probably means can be incredibly difficult to handle if things get too messy.
Okay.
Yeah, that's where I'm coming from. What
Let's
about y'all?
roll there. Let's
Okay.
and move on to the GN Artemy, which really, if I'm looking at the right image, is like a bumblebee, but a person.
She is like a bumblebee person, and she's also one of the manga. She's the original design that ended up developing into the GN Archer.
Mm.
And so this is like a comic-only design that they never made a proper kit for. And you have to go into fan-made garage resin kits if you want a model of the GN Artemy. But I think everyone needs to appreciate this robot because it's such a great design.
All right.
She's got a big bumblebee butt. She's got little pixie wings.
Now,
it's a good robot.
Are there any other animal-inspired Gundam?
There's a couple. In the Build Fighters spin-off series, which is all about kids building toys, it's the most overt toy commercial Gundam series. There's like a lion one that just looks like a Megazord.
Gotcha.
Right.
I just wasn't sure like if this is like kind of an anomaly within the Gundam universe.
Are they usually more humanoid?
They're usually pretty humanoid. Sometimes they'll sort of look like, oh, this one's the Russian Cossack warrior. He's got the big hat or whatever.
Right. Okay. And what do you think the purpose was by like kind of breaking away with this design?
I have not actually read the comic she's from.
Okay.
But I would assume it's because there just aren't enough cutesy robots in the series, and honestly, they realized it needed one.
I feel like there's such like a big pushback against just like allowing things to be cute sometimes, and like these more like I don't know.
You say cute, but I honestly think that the Artemy looks badass.
Yeah.
Like not only is there the bee design, but she also has like she's rocking like a beam katana sort of thing, like a beam sword.
Or maybe just like what am I trying to think of? Like just like more fun energy than like the kind of like solemn like 1,000 yard stare of the futility of war you were talking about.
Right. There's a little more
war
levity
can be
here.
adorable as well.
Like this could definitely like I wouldn't say if I had to pick one that had to be like in one of those magical girl animes, I'd probably take that one with me.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, this one's probably a Hufflepuff. Right? That's
what are you thinking?
Well, I was going to say Ravenclaw just because like it's so hard to get anything and you need to sort of be like the huge nerd to have heard of it and then to track down a resin kit. Like I had to wait like a year with this on back order before
by being interested in it, that itself, it's like such an esoteric part of the culture that you would say that informs it to be a Ravenclaw.
I'll admit I'm not a great sorter, as I've learned in this episode, but that's what I'd go for.
That's not what your job is here. You're here to tell us the facts, and we're here to sort.
Oh, well, that makes it a lot. I'm glad I figured that out by the end.
Everybody comes on here thinking like, oh man, I did not study my Harry Potter last night. Every episode
like,
we have to like,
Expelliarmus.
So good. I don't know what that means. Anyway.
How are you feeling on it, Reed?
No, I agree. I think like a very brainy sort of Hufflepuff is where I would land it. So
all right, and with that, we've sorted all the ones that we were hoping to sort, and with a bonus. So with that, Abby, thank you so much for coming onto the Sorting Hat podcast.
It's been an honor.
If we want to find more of you about the internet, where might we look?
Give us that Twitter handle, baby.
Oh gosh, well, my Twitter handle is like 7 years out of being relevant to terms I use. It's MIZABITHA. I keep meaning to replace it with something that's easier to say out loud. It's Ms. Abatha.
Yeah.
Because Abby's a fake name anyway.
Just Google Abby Denton. And she's very, very funny and weird on Twitter. And very funny and weird around LA. If you see her getting up at a show, you need to go and watch.
I'm not that weird.
And check out. Well, you're my friend, so that's just default. And then check out Cyber Cafe. It's a web series podcast, and it's so funny.
And Reed's in the episode we're putting out pretty soon,
or
will have put out
a
recently.
hard-boiled detective.
That's exactly what I think of when I think of Reed Brice. Hard-boiled detective.
And then if you wanna reach us, Michael's at Belated Media, and I'm at that dingus.
And if you'd like to leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, we appreciate that sort of thing. Or just tell your friends that, hey, there's this podcast, you should check it out.
Y'all want to go build some robots?
Sure, why not?
Okay.
I should have brought some of my backlog to share with you guys.